Welcome to iHeartGeek.
And welcome to another episode of iHeartGeek.
All right, cut. All right,
Why?
I want you to do that again, but with a little bit more genuine emotion.
This is why you're not a director.
All right, and action.
And welcome to iHeartGeek.
Awesome, that was perfect.
But
Lunch.
What's his motivation?
Yeah,
what is his motivation?
I don't feel inspired by you're screaming at me.
One of my favorite notes I was ever given by a director was, we're going to do that again, except I want you to take the suck out
of it
and put good back in where the suck used to be.
This sounds like something I would say as a producer.
I feel like I know who that person was.
Nice.
Okay,
I
iHeartGeek
believe he
today.
used to say put some stank on it as well.
iHeartGeek today is brought to you by someone that has a clear direction of where you are going to go. Yeah. So let's talk about the panel today. I'm Dub and I'm your writer. And to my left, especially these two that are next to me, the next two that I'm going to introduce, they know a whole lot more about the subject of directing than I will ever know. So let's start with you, Miss Courtney. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Just fine. Tell me about directing.
Oh,
About what you do with
Do we have
directing.
like 600 hours?
No, we got like 30 seconds. Go.
I'm pretty much a theatrical director, although I would like to get into film at some point in time. There, that's me.
Okay, groovy. And next we have Sean and his magical beard.
Yay!
Tell us a little bit about your director's experience before we...
Well, I've done a lot of theatrical direction. I really like to just cast well and then get out of their way.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I would not disagree with you on that.
And to the other side of the table, we have the guy that feels some way or the other, Mr. Kosh.
Well, I have to ask my directors, how do I feel today?
I think you feel good.
All right.
What do you think?
How do you feel today?
Right. I'm going to expand my universe, and I'm going to say I feel capital.
Oh, look out now.
Best you felt all year?
Yes. Yeah. Breathe. Just breathe.
Only one other person at this
I
table
know.
knows that.
I'm
High
the
fives
only
over
one.
here. There we go.
So many inside jokes. This
No
is killing
turn
me.
here.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Codge, and I have actually had the pleasure of being directed by both of these two wonderful individuals to my right.
Well, this explains why we're doing the directors with these two, right?
Yes.
Two widows.
And
Wait, which two? Are they talking about us?
No, I think they're talking about PB and
Oh,
Dub.
PB and Jason, those two directors.
those
PB.
two individual.
I produce, I don't direct. There's a big difference between the two. I think we'll get into that later
Therefore
as we
you
go.
are.
But I think, you know what, some things you guys are saying sounds there's definitely some similarities with producing as far as music goes and
There can
directing.
be.
I'm just saying, like, PB is not as harsh as Jason is when it comes to directing.
I
So you
agree
definitely
with
want to get
that.
PB?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
PB's very
he's-
organic. Jason is very, PB's kind of Meisner-y.
What? And if you
know,
scratch him
it's
behind his
Yeah.
ear and just feed him a steak, he's fine.
Jason goes more Stanislavski.
And to my right, we have the guy that's just being torn apart by everybody.
I can't even add to that. That was something. I direct my children to school and to bed and to the dinner table, and so yeah, I know a little bit. Actually, in the way back days, I've done a little theatrical directing too, but it was a long time
Nice.
ago. So yeah,
So actually, I have a really important question as far as directors go. What is the name of the thingy with the clacks?
Clapboard.
It's clapboard? Mm-hmm. I thought it'd be something more
Nope,
interesting
it's
than
literally
that.
just a clapboard.
it's the douche-mo-clack.
I wish we had one of those for our commercial.
I
'cause that'd be
do.
fun, but we don't.
Cut, clack. Yep.
Exactly.
I have one in my office at home.
You know,
Oh, there you go.
I
You gotta
guess we're
bring-
going to be
you
recording
gotta
the
bring that.
commercial later.
the ironic part is nowadays most people just clap their hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't have
Really?
to do it,
Yeah. You
Well,
don't even use
they
a
had all that
clapboard.
scene information and all that on. I thought it was like
They
important.
still do that,
Yeah.
but they don't really do the
I thought they only do that when they're happy and they know it.
That's their
clap your
hands.
board.
Yeah, clap your douche-mo-clack.
So no, in all seriousness, I want to start with our two kind of experts, and we'll kind of go around the table a little bit. But what is a director? What do they do? We're talking strictly in a theatrical / TV-ish, movie-ish type. Yeah, not necessarily like a musical director or something, but
Can I go first?
oh,
then,
please.
And then they'll give you the real answer.
You know what? No, I'd love to hear.
That'd be outstanding. Let's hear
someone
it.
who's been under the direction, kind of say, this
Both
is how
of
they
us,
direct.
yeah.
And
All
then
right.
we can talk
All right.
kind of about
So,
the process. Yeah.
so a director to a cast member is somebody who keeps them up at night wondering if they're doing the right thing. it's somebody who will definitely correct them if they're doing something wrong, and is generally, in my experiences with the good directors, is that they. Honestly, they're the ones that are captain of the ship. They're the ones that if anything is going wrong, they need to fix it. Especially for cast members, if they're not feeling like 100% their best, the director goes in there and makes sure that they build these people up because they casted them for a reason. So. And with that, they are the magic maker of the show. They're the ones who create the show.
Well, with that, that's very much the thought pattern I have. Is that when I produce any new band, my thought always is, tell me where you want to go, and I'm going to steer the ship where it wants to go. But you tell me where you want it at the end, and I'm going to get you to that point. So is that kind of like the same thing?
Well, I think the one thing that I did want to comment on that I think is interesting is that typically in and I'm doing air quotes with my fingers, but professional theater, the director doesn't do that. The director's
You didn't
not
do any
there.
air quotes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Professional.
Thank you.
It was
theater.
under the table.
The director isn't there to nurture the actor or shape the actor, really to give them any acting direction at all. They count on you to come in and do it. They really are more like, it's more about like being a traffic cop. That's the big joke is that you come in, if you ask your director in a professional theater, what's my motivation? Their answer is your paycheck. Your job is to be able to answer those questions. I don't need to teach you how to act. I need you to move from here to there.
It's all everything that we basically just said is like serious, silly stereotype.
No. I don't, from what I hear, from what they say about directors, actually what I'm sure is true, they're as versatile and diverse as a performer. I mean, you've got directors that probably come in with a much more clear vision of the interpretation that they want. You have directors that come in that are more willing to let the actors kind of shape the vision more. I imagine, again, you don't really have kind of a stock director.
I will absolutely admit that I am a highly unorthodox director. So, and I can talk about that in a second, but I'd love to hear about your process.
I guess I like to think of it as painting with people.
Nice.
That's a weird way to do it, but that's how I look at it and Kaj can speak to this because he's
been painted.
Been one of my people in my toolkit.
I still have paint.
One of the people in my toolkit, but because I started out acting and then kind of moved into directing, and I think good directors, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too, but I think really good directors, if we've been on the other side in some capacity, not necessarily been actors first, but if you've been on the other side, like in a tech position or something, then I think it makes our jobs easier because we understand what's actually going on inside the head of the actor who's standing in front of you. Yeah, I mean, if you get somebody that's only ever directed, it's like, well, do this. And if your actor asks you, why am I doing this? You have to be able to tell them why. And a lot of times that's not the case. And so, like, I like to think of it, like I said, painting with people, because I put my people on my canvas and then I let them kind of do their thing. And if they're going in a direction that I don't really think that we should be headed, I'll steer them back and we'll go do something.
Sounds like a dungeon master.
Yeah.
Puppet master.
That's actually great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I totally agree with that. And the whole thing about professional directors, and again, air quotes, professional directors, I think that a lot of the art gets lost when they do that.
Yeah.
That the negotiation with the director and the actors. So where I feel like I'm pretty unorthodox is the first thing I say is, welcome to the conversation. That literally day one, I say, welcome to the conversation. The show that I want to put on stage is not the one that's in my head, and it's not the one that it's in your head. It's the one that we're going to come to agree upon. So my big analogy, and I think this really wraps up my process, is directing is like pushing a boulder up a hill. And at some point, that boulder is going to tip out of your hands. And so many directors try to run around to the other side and lower it down the hill. And at some point, the director has to realize that the show is bigger than they are. And you have to like nudge the boulder so it doesn't run over small children or crush villages or whatever. But you gotta let it just go. And at some point in the process, the show isn't yours anymore. It belongs to the actors, and you have to let them have that.
I agree with that completely.
Okay,
That sounds like songwriting.
Actually, I have a question with, especially with your guys' take on this. Kevin Smith has a story about when he was directing Shannon Doherty, that he told her how he wanted the line said. and she got really upset and said, are you feeding me my line? Which I guess you guys aren't supposed to do. How do you get someone to say it how you want it said without, I guess, telling them what to do? Or am I taking that wrong?
No, I agree with that. Like, you don't want to give line readings to an actor, but there are definitely times where I'll just finally look at the director and go, can you just tell me how you want me to say it?
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm upset or offended. It's that I'm not getting it, and I'd rather you just tell me and then learn to motivate it from there.
Is this it about the 45th take?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right,
It gets to the point where it's like, now I'm just killing time, so please tell me.
Yeah, and what it could be is that the director's not articulating themselves correctly, because I think we had that problem in Andrews Brothers. I wanted him to say a line a certain way with a certain kind of emotion, but I was not articulating to him the right way. So he couldn't quite give me what I wanted.
Why didn't you just smack him?
Well, we did that other times, but
That was for the
but yeah,
singing.
like I as a former actor, I hate it when directors give me line readings, but I'm with Sean on it. If I'm not getting it and we're a half an hour into rehearsal, just tell me what you want me to do. Just call it a day.
The other thing that I'll do, one strategy, and I don't know if you do this as well when I run into that problem, is I will give a line reading, but with this caveat. I will say, I'm not giving you a line reading. I'm trying to show you what I'm going for. Take that and make it your own. And directors and actors will usually receive that when I can do that and go, it's kind of this kind of feel. And they go, okay, I get that. And then they can kind of take it and morph it and make it their own. And then we kind of get in the wheelhouse. The other thing I will say with the Shannon Doherty thing, and he also has a great story about Bruce Willis, where I wanted to just backhand both of them. I wanted to be like, your job, what you're getting paid to do is realize his vision. So stop being a baby and do it. And that's how I feel as an actor, not as a director. As an actor, I'm like, I'm here to realize that vision. So whatever they tell me to do, if he tells me to cross here, cross there. Do it then. Do it now, So,
Yeah.
And I have to switch hats. I don't know. Because I'll put the director hat on, but when I'm doing the acting roles, I'll have to take off the director hat, because there'll be lots of times when a director will go, well, I need you to do this, and it makes no sense whatsoever. That's not my call. My call is to do what he said to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. So
a super, super quick, because I think you guys will enjoy it, super quick story is actually at tournament, we have this sword that lights on fire, and there's a great story that one of the actors has with the director where the director is like, yeah, it's so cool, the sword lights on fire, so hold it up in the air and turn it around and show it to everyone. And the actor tried it and went, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. He's like, try it again. And he tries again. He goes, I can't find the motivation on why he would do that. It doesn't feel authentic. And he said, dude, sometimes you just have to show the audience the flaming sword. And I think that's just exactly right. Just turn around with the sword, man. You know. So.
Okay, let's move
I gotta
on.
find my motivation.
It's a sword and it's on fire.
And there's
it's
people
And
who
it's
want to
awesome.
show it.
Yeah.
And there's people over there having dinner.
really
Turn
cool.
around.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, let's move on to our game show.
Here's a generic game show for you.
Okay, Courtney is here to torture us with her latest rendition. I told her I wasn't going to let her do this again.
Holy sheets. This
And
game
what do
show
I
is
do?
hard.
Have you been keeping that one in your pocket?
Yo,
for a
He really has.
Yes,
Awesome.
probably. For
He's
a
been
very
thinking
long
about that for at
time.
least a week. I can
He-
see it in his eyes.
He went to bed about 3:30
No,
last night.
on the way over.
Nice.
That
I'm
works.
going to work this in somewhere to the show.
Oh, I knew
Totally.
I knew exactly where, because I knew
All
her
right.
game show would be a Holy Sheets moment.
Yeah. This is
That should be a
actually a
new
lot harder
segment,
than I
just
thought it
holy
was. So
sheets.
sorry, guys. All right, we ready?
Want to see the lowest scoring game in
Here
history?
comes- I gotta
going
keep
to
score. That's
nail
right.
this one.
I'm going to get a -4 out of this.
Hold on, I forgot the score part.
And this isn't me doing false bragging like Jason likes to accuse me of. No, this is going to be really bad.
It's really hard.
No,
I'm
this is
sorry.
just direct bragging.
I'm a terrible, terrible
No, that was on the
person.
Harley Quinn one that I
Okay,
did that.
gotcha.
Yeah, that was a lot of bragging on that one.
Because, she won the Hoobie 2 and deserved it.
You know, on this game show, to be honest, on this game show, I got some right. I know I did.
Okay.
So
I think you guys probably got more right than you thought you did. Okay, number one. How many directors did Gone with the Wind have? I'm going to go this way. Sean?
None. It was entirely long form improv.
Frankly, my dear, I don't
Oh,
give a
I
darn.
love it.
Yeah,
I
it's a-
love it. Gosh.
2.
No. Close.
No, 3.
Which is your answer? What did you write down?
No, 2.
Okay.
Actually, I wrote 4.
Okay. Well, then you're wrong on most of that.
I wrote 2.
Nope.
42.
No.
Because it is the answer to everything.
It is the answer to everything, but not in this case. It's actually 3.
3.
I
was it
I
because
could
the
have
lead-
faked that when you did that answer
Yeah.
thing, but I didn't.
Was
Ladies
it
and
because of the
gentlemen,
lead
it was the
actress?
easiest
The lead
question.
actress?
No, because the producer, David L. Selznick, was kind of a jerk.
Okay.
And didn't like everybody
heard
that
that.
came in.
Oh, I thought
One
it, yeah, I thought it
director
was the
only
lead actress,
lasted
not the
18
producer.
days.
Okay.
One
Okay.
director only lasted 18 days. So, okay, that was the easiest question in the game show.
Oh,
Wow, really?
Number
Accurate.
2. What was the first feature film Tim Burton ever directed? Sean?
The Forbidden Zone.
Hush.
I thought it was a short film, and I can't remember the name, so I'm just going to go with Beetlejuice.
No.
Frankenweenie.
No.
Oh.
Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. Dang it.
Pooh's Big Adventure.
Oh.
I knew you were going to all do that. I knew it. I knew it.
It's like, and I
That's
saw
actually
that
kind of
too, yeah,
upsetting.
Yeah.
See, you said Oingo Boingo. Sort of. in it.
Sort of.
Really? That
Yeah.
wasn't Frankenweenie.
Frankenweenie
Frankenweenie
was a
was
short.
much later.
It was not
Way
considered
after
a.
that. Was
Much
after
later.
Beetlejuice and everything
That's
else.
what got him a
Edward
job at
Scissorhands.
Disney.
Yeah.
That was after Pee Wee though?
No, it was before Pee-wee, but
The
it's a
question was
short film
feature.
that's not a feature film.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pay attention to the questions.
I should get a half point for that because that was his first film.
Negative.
No,
Because that was his
actually-
first film.
Eat it,
Actually,
PB.
it wasn't.
What was the first one?
Stock Boy. It was about.
That's it.
Yep. It was about
Mm,
about a celery superhero.
It wasn't Forbidden Zone.
No, but I liked Forbidden Zone. Okay, number 3. Oh, number 3. What were 2 memorable things about the shower scene in Psycho? You can have a point for each if you get them. Mr. Sean?
The first one was a waste of perfectly good chocolate syrup.
Yes!
And I got one right. Yes. And the other one was, shower scenes should always be done in POV, right?
I like that answer, but that's not what I was looking for. But you get 1 point for the chocolate sauce.
Hooray! Yep. The blood was syrup.
Yep.
And the second was she wasn't naked actually in the scene. Just there was a point of view from up
No,
down.
but you're on the right track with that.
She
I
wore
put-
socks.
No.
I put the blood effect.
Yep.
Okay. Going down the drain, the blood effect. And I
Yeah.
put the first non-gun murder.
No.
Okay.
But that's a good answer. Dub?
No penetration of the knife shown. You like how I edited that?
Yeah.
And I guess the most shots in a single
No. But those are good
scene
answers.
ever, I guess.
Okay.
thing?
So you guys got it right. The blood is actually chocolate sauce. It's Hershey syrup.
No, you guys except for
Yeah, except
Dub.
for Dub.
Thank you. That hurts.
And then the other thing is there was actually a body double. It was not Janet Leigh.
That's right.
It
Oh,
was
that's right.
unknown because Hitchcock and Janet Leigh basically lied about it until 2001 when it came out in an interview that it was a body double. It was actually one of the first Playboy bunnies.
Okay.
Marilyn?
I don't remember it being a
And then-
bunny.
I know
at all.
that
It
one.
was a
Of
bunny.
course I know that one.
A bunny. Marilyn was never a bunny.
It's got big fangs, I guess.
There you go.
They sell those now, by the way.
Number 4. It's a multiple point question. How many of Billy Wilder's films are in the National Registry of Films, and what are their names? Sean?
3. And their names are Steve, Alex, and David.
No. Gosh.
I have 5, but I only wrote 2 of them down. Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles.
Neither one of those. Your number is
What?
still there, though.
You're.
Oh,
Mel
I'm thinking of
Brooks.
Gene Wilder. Oh, of course.
That was.
That was good. Okay.
Wow.
PB. Gosh killed PB.
Oh God. I'm sorry.
That was
Okay.
good.
I don't know the films off the top of my head.
Okay.
And I wrote 4.
Dub?
I guess there's 42 of them. And
'Cause I have
I
42
only knew
left.
Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Okay, there are 7.
Oh.
My personal favorite, Double Indemnity, Lost Weekend, Sunset Boulevard. You are dead to me for not knowing Double Indemnity. Ace in the Hole, which I've never seen. Sabrina, Some Like It Hot, and The Apartment.
I know that one.
Yep.
I know
Sabrina,
one.
Something Like It Hot.
One
and
of
Sunset
those.
Boulevard. I don't know Double Indemnity.
Double
I've never-
Indemnity is an amazing film.
Double
Everybody watch it.
Anemone.
It's an amazing, amazing film. Okay, number 5. Who was the first woman to helm a film with a budget of $100 million? Sean.
There was a body double.
No, but it was a good answer. Gosh.
That's it. I'm going to go World of Warcraft on this and say Patty Jenkins.
That's right, baby. All right.
That was
PB.
outstanding. Thank
It
you for
was
that.
good. I like that.
It's not Leroy Jenkins.
Patty Jenkins.
I'll take
It's
Patty
not Gene
Jenkins.
Wilder either. Come on.
Patty Jenkins.
Okay.
But she does like chicken,
Dub.
though.
Yes, Patty Jenkins.
Dub got a point.
You always have to
Dub
have
got
a Wonder
point.
Woman thing in there.
Heck
So
yeah, I do.
I almost said, is it Cameron, James Cameron's wife for the Hurt Locker?
No, well, that's close, but but no, Hurt Locker didn't have the budget.
Yeah, but Kosh,
Wonder
who-
Woman
who-
had $100 million
Right.
budget. That's why.
Right.
Gosh, who directed Young Frankenstein and
And-
Blazing Saddles?
Billy Wilder.
Truthfully, that's
Gene
what
Wilder
Wilder
didn't even
had
do
her down.
it. He was
Did
in
you have Patty
it.
Jenkins?
No,
But
no,
he wrote
Or
it. But
Leroy
well,
did.
I guess
Yeah,
he
yeah.
kind of sort of co-directed Young Frankenstein with Mel Brooks. But
Yeah, and they wrote it.
Okay, I think
Young Frankenstein is his baby. Is Gene Wilder's baby.
I just want a side note for all of our listeners that Dubs actually did say before we started, no crosstalk, rein it in.
It's not happening today, is it?
Okay, let's move on
reject
to
your reality and replace it with my own.
Let's move on to the next question. What are we on?
6.
Question 6. How many big budget superhero movies, not counting DC animated studios, have been directed by women, and what are the titles? Multiple points to be awarded. Sean.
This answer is purely to see if I get slapped.
Okay.
1, and it's Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
This close because I can't stand Hello Kitty. Coach.
I just went with 1, and it's Wonder Woman.
You get 8 point for Wonder Woman. Pewdle.
I wrote 2.
Okay.
Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel.
That's 2
Oh,
points.
I forgot about Captain Marvel.
There's actually more than that, but those are 2 of the answers.
Okay.
Wonder Woman and Thor.
Nope. You
Nope.
get 1 point for Wonder Woman.
Oh,
There's 4.
Well, Patty Jenkins didn't for Thor. Well, they Thor Dark World is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about? But she wasn't.
She was
Okay,
fired.
close
Yeah,
enough.
she was
Yeah.
fired. So
I don't know
Okay.
why, but every time you guys say Thor, I just imagine you have a lisp.
I left.
Speaking of, I saw Mike Tyson the other day driving through the property in his freaking
You can always
Corvette.
tell how hard the questions are when everybody tries to change the topic
Exactly.
before we finish
Moving
them.
on.
Go ahead.
My, my throat is Thor.
my brain is Thor.
Is 4.
4.
Not Thor.
Not
4.
42?
Punisher, Warzone,
Ew.
Wonder Woman, Tank Girl, and Captain
Tank
Marvel.
Girl.
Tank
That's
Girl.
right. Should have remembered that.
All right, number 8. 3 actors were offered the
No,
role
7.
of
Seven.
7. Sorry, we skipped number. Never.
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
6
we
was
did.
Wonder Woman.
No,
Yeah.
she edited
my-
some of her
my
questions.
board.
Oh, okay.
I just got to make sure they're right. Number 7. 3 actors were offered the role of Superman before Christopher Reeve. Who were they? Multiple points awarded. Sean. Hello Kitty. Does not the answer.
Steve, Alex, and David.
No. God.
I went with Robert Redford, Sylvester Stallone, and Robin Williams.
You got 1. It's Robert Redford. Okay.
I love that he went.
I didn't pick Robert Redford.
I knew that
although
was the
that's a
only one.
good
The other
guess.
Sylvester.
I put Clint Eastwood, Burt Reynolds, and John Travolta.
You got 1 because Clint Eastwood was one of them.
Right.
I guessed Richard Chamberlain and Burt Reynolds.
Nope. It's Robert Redford, Clint Eastwood, and James Caan.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
That would have been absolutely awful. Thank you, James Caan, for not getting
He
that.
turned
What,
it down
Nick-
because he
what,
said,
Nick-
"I'm not getting in that silly suit."
Nicholas
Thank
Cage
God.
isn't in there?
That's
No, this
much
is
later.
for
That's-
this is for the Richard.
That's not the
Donner
Donner
version.
verse.
Yeah.
Nah.
Okay, number 8. What are the names of the directors' unions in this country? There are 2, so you can get 2 points. Sean.
Union 1 and Union 2.
No.
I just
Union-
get the feeling you're not taking this game show very seriously,
Union
Mr.
Really
Richfield.
hard.
You think this is a game?
I put SAG and AFTRA. Is it?
Nope. Those are for actors.
Oh.
I put the National Association of Filmmakers
No.
because it sounded great.
That sounded cool.
And then I put the director's cut.
No. No. Duh.
I guess the Directors Union and the Union of Directors.
No, it's the Directors Guild of America and the Stage Directors and Choreographers Society.
Oh, it's those.
Oh,
those.
I knew
Yeah,
that.
it was right on the tip of my tongue.
I don't even
Yeah.
remember what you just said.
I'm actually a member of one of them.
Of course.
Okay, final question.
They should change the name to the National Association of Filmmakers. It's easier to remember.
I like Directors Union and the Union of Directors.
Well, Directors Guild of America is kind of like the Directors
That'd be like the
Union.
Justice League or the the Directors Justice
Just
Directors
Directors
of
League?
America. Maybe.
Directors League? I don't know.
Regional Association of Directors, and that could be rad.
Number 9.
We're really trying to
I
avoid
know.
this game show. Can
All
you
right.
tell?
Last question. Richard Donner was considered to direct what superhero movie after Superman? Go ahead, Sean.
Donner Party League of Heroes in What's
Yes.
for Dinner.
3D?
Yeah.
Was it 3D and IMAX?
Should have been. I thought it was who's for dinner.
Yeah.
Who's coming for dinner?
Gosh.
Aquaman Under the Sea.
Under the sea.
Batman.
Batman 89.
The very first movie we did as a movie night, which was Batman,
Batman
89.
89. All right.
Would they have had
All right.
Joker die at the end?
Your suffering is over.
Thank God.
Dun, dun, dun. Sean leads the pack with an amazing 1 point.
Yay!
What did he get
No,
right?
I got 3.
I got chocolate sauce.
Oh,
You
that's
got the
good.
chocolate
Yeah,
sauce.
very good. Okay.
Dub comes in second with 3.
Second to last.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're not playing golf.
No. Kaj with a whopping 4.
Hey.
Whopping.
And PB is our
PB.
winner with 6.
Six.
Yeah.
You cheated somehow on that.
No, I didn't.
Nice.
No,
and
you just
Jason.
got really lucky on a lot of them.
That wasn't it either. I actually knew a couple.
How does that work?
Hey, PB, get around there. Stop looking at her answers.
There's no way you can fake those answers.
No.
I was
No.
trying.
I will say that Sean's win the creativity points award.
Oh, I get a participation trophy.
Aw, so entitled. Okay, so back to the director's discussion. Growing up, which was the first director you remember having a signature style that you're like, I'm paying attention to this because of the director?
Tim Burton. He was the one that, and with Pee Wee, being the first of his films that I saw, not knowing that was his first, but that being the first one of his I saw, it was absolutely the style that grabbed my attention. And as he went on with his his films, having Danny Elfman do music, having always those really weird, not quite right, odd colors and strange, just slightly left of reality,
Goth.
like houses and settings and
striped
stuff.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally visually caught my eye as having a style, and it definitely stayed even
Yeah.
into his more serious offerings.
And I mean,
It was-
and it stays with us forever. Like the Neon Museum is going to be having in mid-October. They're having
Yep.
the Tim Burton.
Yeah, this,
Yeah, I'm
this
there.
will be a
I'm
show
totally
thing, by
there.
the way.
I already got
And-
my
and
tickets.
my stomach gets all gooey when I think
I know,
about
I'm
that.
excited.
But honestly, for me, it was I was a sucker from like 12 or 13 on for the socially relevant teenage dramas. So it was John Hughes.
Yeah.
Like I
Nice.
just
He was a big one that we didn't even realize at the time, I
Yeah.
think.
to this day, one of my all-time favorite movies is Breakfast Club.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so yeah. That's another like one of those movies where if I was in Ready Player One and it was like you have to know every line of it in order to win it, I would hope it was either Tombstone or Breakfast Club. Shermer High School, Shermer, Illinois.
Gosh, mine would probably be like a tie, like that I started noticing about the director would be definitely Steven Spielberg would be one of them because with E.T. and with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like when I got old enough to be like, oh, somebody directed this. Who is it? Or I would say even topping him would be Robert Zemeckis with Back to the Future, with oh gosh, I have all
Romancing the
But, well,
Stone,
Romancing the
Who
Stone.
Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I can see
Love it.
Zemeckis having definitely a signature style, but do you really think Spielberg has a I mean, he's one of the greatest directors on the planet, I know. But do you really think he has a signature style?
Well, it's not a signature style.
It's not
just-
something you can like watch a movie and like, oh, Spielberg did this.
He has kids you want to smack in a lot of his movies. That's a similar thing.
I think you can watch a film though, a Steven Spielberg film, and know instantly that it is a Steven
What is it about it
Spielberg
that would?
film.
Well, here's
That's kind of what I'm getting at with this
Yeah.
question.
You mind if I have a? So here's the thing. This sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but it's just really the reference that I'm drawing in my brain to explain what I'm thinking. So there was a podcast where they were talking about one of the shows that I directed, and someone said, there's no thumbprint on the show that says that it's a Sean Critchfield show. And someone else said, that's Sean Critchfield's thumbprint, is that as a director, he's unobtrusive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That there's no heavy-handed thing. Since then, I definitely do have a thumbprint. But
So you're the Buddha of directors, is what you're saying.
that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah. Everyone watching my show is total suffering. So, yeah.
Wow. No self-depreciation here at all.
You're basically reduced to nothing.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
By the time it's over,
It's
especially.
an existential crisis.
So, that's right. But so I would say that maybe that's part of his signature is how diverse he
Yeah.
is. You know.
Fair enough.
And I mean, I think in terms of Spielberg, and I couldn't name you specific instances, but he does favor certain shots. You know, he does. There's tells on certain things that maybe because I mean, you got what I was saying. I mean, but we're directors. I mean, not to like distance ourselves from the rest of the panel, but
we're better than you. Oh, sorry.
well, no, like
I'm just kidding.
we watch. Like I don't know about you, but I will sit. Sometimes I will sit and watch a movie, and I will dissect it by the shots. I will dissect it by the moments, rather than watching the movie for enjoyment. I'll go, oh well, they're doing a traveling shot here.
I have to watch movies and shows twice, so that I can watch it with both brains.
The first time you watch it. Yeah, you have to turn off that part of your brain so you can enjoy what's
I totally
happening.
get that in
Yeah.
two things. One, that you can relate to me. Probably both, actually.
Yeah.
You're a writer. You've written novels and novellas, and I've written one novel. So I can't read a book the same way anymore. To me, a book is broken down into this is the action lead up and the the parts, and then also. And I hate it because it ruined a lot of listening to music for me.
Yeah.
When you songwrite, you see the map of songwriting sometimes, and it's like, I don't want to do that.
I want to jump in on two things. One is about Spielberg. You guys all know this, and it's a good way to quantify what you're saying. He invented this shot. It was first used, I believe, in Poltergeist when the mom looks down the hallway before she runs in to save her daughter, and it's the dolly back, aperture open. So it's that when it looks like the hallway stretches, what they're doing is they're dollying back the camera and they're widening the.
He invented that?
No, I don't think he did, and I'm going to tell you why. It's a movie that we watched on a movie night. Time Bandits was way before Spielberg stuff, and they had that long scene.
No, that's different because the wall was moving. However, Willy Wonka did that, didn't it? Where they went down that shorter hallway and it ended up looking longer and longer and longer.
That's
I think that was forced perspective.
That was forced perspective. Okay.
This was the way
it moves.
It's
the
not the
moving
shot.
thing.
It's the way he achieved it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Making the hallway look like it keeps going.
Yeah, and it's used all the time. And when you see that for years, that was a Spielberg movie.
Okay.
So when you
good.
say you love Spielberg, it's not necessarily the way he directs; it's the camera work.
It could be.
It's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, like Shakespeare is an awful storyteller. He's a brilliant writer, but he's not a good storyteller. His stories are actually kind of crap.
So it's up to the director to make them good.
And it's the way that he writes, and I feel like sometimes, and I think Spielberg tells a good story as well, but there's also a genius in what he's doing. And there's a great Mark Twain thing. I noticed that I bring up Mark Twain in almost every time I'm on here, which is interesting. Mark Twain talks about when he was a riverboat captain, how he did it because he loved the Mississippi River, and then at first becoming a riverboat captain ruined it for him because he had to understand every eddy, every curl, every current, and the
mystery went away.
Yeah, the mystery went away. But he said that later he realized that he knew that river intimately, like it was his lover, and he said that there's a greater intimacy in the fact that you can dissect a novel or a song that way.
Okay.
It's a deeper, richer understanding. And I just loved that change of perspective. And it allows me to go, no, I'm appreciating this to a greater depth as a director.
Nice.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mark.
Well, what I find interesting on that is, I mean, one of my favorite directors I look at on the other side, and he is very, very basic and very simple, very block on everything, which is Kevin Smith. Everything is very how I see it as a person. Spielberg may see it as an art. Kevin Smith does it as a person, which I think there's merit to both.
Yeah,
there's
if he were
both.
a painter, he'd be a realist.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
And like depending on what you're directing too, I mean it does. You get certain people to do certain things. One thing that comes to mind is Game of Thrones for me, because there's a huge.
Are we going to talk about the last 2 seasons again?
What I'm going to talk about a couple of the directors is what I'm going to do. Is a couple of the the Battle of the Bastards is considered probably one of the best, if not the best, episode of the series. And then Hard Home is the other one. They have the same director. He also was the same director who did The Long Night. And I found when I was watching, when he was directing his stuff, I would watch, and he's a great battle director. So that's why they would hire him to do just those battle scenes. Whereas like they would hire someone else to do mainly talking episodes. But if you had a big battle, you hired Miguel Spanacek, and he was a choreographer in addition to being a director, because a battle requires something like that. And like I would sit there and watch this, and I would do the same thing. I would pick it apart going, okay, well, he's using this kind of a shot here, and I wonder how high the arm is on the trolley, what kind of aerial. I did those kinds of things. The first time I watched it with, oh my god, this is amazing, and then the second time it was picking it apart. Like I even wrote a blog post about it. It was so cool.
Nice.
But I mean, in terms of that, you've got specific directors to do specific things. Spielberg, you can get to do just about anything.
Yeah.
It's okay to say Battle of the Bastards, because Dub and I do the Battle of the Bastards almost every
Pretty much.
podcast episode.
We haven't punched each other yet, though.
I love the Kevin Smith insight, though, because I do think that is the opposite of that, and I think that that's its own style, like that idea of that if he was an artist, he'd be a realist. Again, going back to the Bruce Willis thing, where Bruce got all upset because he didn't know the actual name of how tight he wanted the shot, you know, and he's
Do it like you did on Moonlighting.
You know, but no, it was actually the way he wanted him framed in. And he finally had to ask the director of photography what lens it was that he was talking about. And it's because he's not concerned with that. He's concerned with
telling a story.
Yeah, he's like, I have an aesthetic in my head, and I know what I'm looking for, and I'm not worried about the rest of it as long as I can get what's in my head on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think that's really cool.
Kevin Smith could never have done Schindler's List.
Yeah.
But Spielberg could never have done
Have
Clerks.
done Mallrats. Mallrats,
I mean,
yeah,
and
exactly.
in terms of Kevin Smith, and I know how much you love him, would you be able to sit down and tell me which episodes of The Flash he directed?
Yes, I can, actually.
See? I mean, it's got, even though he's doing something that's a cohesive piece, a series of shows, you can pick out which ones Kevin Smith did.
Well,
and
he
which ones
has to
he's
put
got
in
his
his
preferences,
signature,
Yeah, he's got a style.
So now I got a question for you two to throw you out. So we're talking about the best
We're getting
best
thrown out?
directors.
Oh, I got mine.
Best directors. Who is, I don't want to say worse, but who is a director that you feel is like not like making the grade, but they're getting paid a ridiculous amount of money to make movies?
I have two, but I'll go ahead.
I
Go ahead, Sean.
you
Go
can
first.
have the same one.
You
Yeah,
go
let's
first,
head
because
around.
I feel it's probably the same person.
For you and me.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so
No, go
what's
ahead,
all right, so let's start with the.
I don't remember his
Deb and
name,
Jason.
but it's the one who directed Independence Day and Godzilla,
Oh, okay.
and
Let me look it up.
a bunch of those disaster-y type films. If you guys look him up, I don't know. He did Godzilla. He did Independence Day. He did the one where the Ice Age came in, and
Roland Emmerich.
Roland Emmerich. Yes,
Roland
that's
Emmerich.
one. And the other one, bless his little heart, George Lucas.
That was mine.
Okay.
Look what he did to start. The performances in Star Wars, the first one, are terrible because he was directing.
He is a wonderful writer. He is a wonderful executive producer.
He's a great
He's a
story.
great
He's a
visionary.
great storyteller. He's a horrible director.
Yep.
Terrible.
Well,
I would agree with
Okay,
that
he's
one.
a subpar
Star
director.
Wars is just man versus man. That's all it
Yeah,
is.
I'll just make mine quick. Michael Bay. You know why? All right. So.
Okay, so this is going to earn me so much hate, I can tell.
Oh no.
It's Zack Schneider. I think he's...
Oh, that's not so much
Well,
hate.
if you take out the Superman stuff,
I hated Watchmen.
no, I'll tell you what. Go back and rewatch it. Take all the book stuff out and the stuff that he did, the stuff that he had the freedom to, was that beginning montage. And if you can watch that and tell me it wasn't brilliant, I don't know if we can be friends.
I can't...
It is brilliant.
Am I going to watch the destruction of a friendship live on this
No.
podcast right
No.
now?
First 4 minutes of that is just
I think he's
genius.
incredibly overrated, and I think he's incredibly full of himself, and I think he should be done making...
He's
movies.
very,
I will
very
side
bad
with
at
you.
detail.
I will
He's
side
a
with you,
great
Courtney.
producer. He's
just
a
for the mere
terrible-
fact, because we were talking about, like, when the director has a vision and they're like, no, do it this way, and not giving it to the actors to kind of organically like create it himself. I feel was Zack Snyder's. Like he had the one hit wonder with 300. I love 300.
300 was fantastic. Second one wasn't.
Anything after that, it just
I gotta tell you, the first time I watched 300, I hated it.
okay.
I just thought it was just garbage.
I got 3, man. I'm
Now,
going down
my
in
thing is with 300,
flames.
though, the first time I watched it, I happened to be in college at the time, and I had just finished taking a ancient Greek history class final right before I watched it. I can go back and watch it now, and I enjoy it. I still think he's just a terrible director.
All right. So
Hate me if
I'm
you
about
will.
to make some serious enemies. So I want to reiterate that Kaj's question was not who do you think is a horrible director. He said who do you think misses the mark? Who do you think is overrated? And I think that because I would say that he's only on half the time for me, David Fincher is really up there.
Funny enough, I was just about to write him as my number 4.
That's
Like-
one of our listener feedback questions.
Is it? So
Answers, yeah.
David
That's fine.
Fincher for
I can
me,
kind of agree with that one, actually.
he hits 50%.
He's pretentious.
Yeah, we're going to
So
get
that's
beat up
one.
later.
The second one is
can't talk about
just because, I mean, I love her work sometimes, and then I hate it. So she's another one is Penny Marshall.
Okay.
But
I'd
the one
I can see
that's
that.
going to get me all the listener hate, and I will defend it if you guys are interested. I don't like Baz Luhrmann. I'm sorry.
The
Fair
only
enough.
thing that I think was amazing by Baz Luhrmann is Strictly Ballroom. I think everything
Strictly Ballroom
else
is great, yeah.
just...
What else did he do?
It all
for
feels
me.
like a
He
cologne
did-
commercial.
He did.
All his movies.
He did the
Moulin
Romeo and
Rouge,
Juliet,
Okay.
which I
Moulin
hate.
Rouge. So I think that
I
he's
know, yeah, right,
heavy-handed.
right.
I
Okay.
think that it's far too stylized. I'm a big believer in psychological realism, and I like subtlety. So for me, like the greatest thing he did in those big avant-garde movies was the Roxanne sequence in Moulin Rouge, because it was the
So good.
only thing in the movie
That's
that was
good.
understated, and I was like, do that, and I'm in. But otherwise, it's just not a Baz Luhrmann.
His
Nice.
La Boheme on Broadway was actually really wonderful.
Okay.
And we can't even talk about David Fincher because we can't talk about my favorite movie of his because it's the first 2 rules of his favorite movie.
I know. That's one that hit for me. That was good.
Okay, so now we got to move on to some of the real stars of our show, the listener feedback.
And now, let's see what all of our geek rock stars have to say.
Okay, so for our listener feedback today, we asked who is your favorite director and why. Now, as always, I had to cut at least half of our answers because you guys forgot to answer why.
And what's your motivation for your answer?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to hear.
That's
Right.
Yeah.
To get on the show.
It's a simple direction.
So let's start with our Twitter. Our buddy that was on the episode, on our last movie episode, David Rosen from @Piecing It Together podcast, said definitely the Coen brothers and Darren Aronofsky, who even on their lesser films gives me something to think about for days, weeks, or even months after seeing it.
Yeah, I'm behind that.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
he knows his stuff, so I'm not
Yeah,
going to argue
Black
with him.
Swan killed me forever.
Okay, and for our Facebook, we have the namer of Hal himself, Tyler Romaine, said the Russo brothers. The reason should be obvious. #Endgame. George Romero, may you rest in peace, because as a fan of the undead genre, he hasn't let me down yet. I don't think he can at this
'Cause
point,
he's
can he? I'm bad.
Zombie.
Carrie Schultens, Tarantino always, Paul Thomas Anderson, Scorsese, you know, the basics.
Yeah.
I guess that would
I will
actually be
say
fair to
Scorsese
say.
because I love Casino. What?
Scorsese is a hit and
Hit
miss
and
one
miss.
for
Yeah.
me, too,
Yeah.
actually.
He can be a bit
Scorsese.
long-winded. Mr. Winchester, in no particular order, Darren Aronofsky, Christopher Nolan, David Fincher. Honestly, I could probably do a top 10 of them. Not that you people aren't into lists.
Oh, Winchester.
Touche.
Daniel,
You big geek.
we missed you, bud. Come
We
back.
do. We miss him.
Daniel Houston says Michael Mann. His talent. Now this is educated. This is his words, not mine. His taut directing style, the kind of research he conducts to write stories and characters out, the training he commits the actors to in order to perfect their roles. For me, a perfect example is Heat. which is one of my favorite films of all time. The last scene of the movie is the epitome of great storytelling, and I gotta admit, I do not like that movie.
Oh, I love that movie. And Michael Mann is very good.
And he also did Miami Vice.
Well, that changes everything.
Game changer.
Our buddy Dino from the podcast. My answer is Larry Blamar. I've never heard of him. Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, Dark and Stormy Night. His
This
films
is a
are
horror movie.
Oh
guy.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Sounds like it,
his podcast is horror movies.
Right.
His films are such a love letter to classics that inspire them. When doing a spoof satire, it is so easy to go over the top into absurdity. The strength of his films come from a genuine appreciation of the source material. And finally, John from California says Jon Favreau, J.J. Abrams, Guy Ritchie, and Matthew Vaughn. Honestly, all these guys haven't let me down. The only Guy Ritchie movie I won't watch is the one that Madonna tried to kill his career with. I know some people have their issues with J.J., but he really hasn't let me down except maybe Lost. Maybe Lost? I'm just saying. Vaughn comes from the same school of movie making, being Guy Ritchie's producer. I've loved Jon Favreau since Swingers. I know he didn't direct the movie, and every time I heard he's directing or producing, I'm interested. I also forgot, and I forgot this on my list too, Edgar Wright. Ever since Shaun of the Dead, I'm sold on his stuff.
Yeah.
Just the greatest popcorn
J.J.
film.
Abrams is like
I don't-
he does do some good
He's a hit or
things,
miss.
and then you
He-
want to
he
just
ties his
strangle him.
shoes.
You want to strangle
Yeah.
him for some other things.
He's like the Guy Fieri of directors.
Oh, I like that. That's a
He's
good
like
idea.
John Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we forgot Coppola.
No, we didn't forget him.
I'm Italian. I'm obligated to mention his name.
Okay, so let's move on to our main event.
Now it's time for the main event.
Okay, for our main event today, we are talking our top 5 directors and why. Because otherwise we're just naming names and this show goes way too fast, I think. I'll start with my number 5, and that would be Christopher Nolan. Not because of the Batman stuff, but I was sold on him as a director, like in an extreme way, since I saw Dunkirk. You guys saw that movie? There's really not much dialogue to it, but he told a story like I've never seen. I mean, it is just so beautifully told.
He's real good. Very few films that blow my mind like Memento. So yeah,
One
I
of the
could-
great neo-noir films out there is Memento.
yeah.
It's so good.
Yes.
Wow,
Definitely.
you guys sound like all educated when you say stuff like
I
that.
love noir. Noir's my jam. My number 5 is Billy Wilder because noir is my jam.
Is it your jelly too?
It is. It's like my comfort food. But he's done a lot of the greatest movies in history as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he did Some Like It Hot, which is the number 1 funniest film in
History.
like AFI's list of films.
Okay,
And
now I'm going to sound uneducated as heck. Is that the Madonna one with the dress scene?
Marilyn Monroe.
Didn't I what I just said?
No,
Said
you
Madonna.
Oh my
and
gosh,
I'm
I
gonna
read
have
Madonna.
No,
earlier.
that's
I
not. No,
apologize.
that's not the 7-year
I'm gonna
itch.
have
She's
to
7-year
take
itch is
you
what
out
I'm
back
talking
and
about.
kill you. No, this
Oh,
is the
Wow, so much
Some
death
Like
threats
It-
today.
Tony Curtis.
Some Like It Hot is Tony Curtis and
Jack
Jack Lemmon.
Lemmon.
And
Okay.
Oh,
Seven
yeah, yeah,
he
Twenty
dressed up
is
as
girl.
They dress up like they dress
Yeah.
up like girls to get away from the mob. It's really funny.
It's very funny. Tony Curtis is a horrible person in that movie.
He
but
really is, but he still gets the girl.
but he is very
the
funny,
end
yeah.
scene is quite possibly the best end line of any comedy ever. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Trust me, you'll just laugh your head off.
The Aristocrats.
And then, no, this is better. He also did Sunset Boulevard. He was one of the first directors to shoot in a pool because there's a dead guy in the pool. And then he did Double Indemnity. So you can see he also did Sabrina. And he wanted to direct Schindler's List, but he decided to let Steven Spielberg.
No one on
do-
Earth should have done that but Spielberg.
Well,
that was
he
absolutely
actually
perfect.
was a consultant on the film.
Yeah.
So Spielberg brought him in. So
good.
All right, my number 5 is the Coen Brothers. I just love the movies, you know, and it's one of those. It just dawned on me that I don't think this is on anyone's list. But it's okay, it's going to get mentioned right now. He's very much like Woody Allen in, like, you know, you either love the Coen Brothers or you hate them. You know what I mean? And it just
Yeah, they're okay.
There's something charming. There's something charming about their movie. Yeah,
It's like
I just love it. And I'm one of the guys that's on the fence about Woody Allen.
Didn't they do The Big Lebowski too?
Yeah.
I love
Okay,
The
that's
Big
Wayne right there.
Lebowski.
Yeah. So.
I love the fact that The Big Lebowski is a takeoff of The Big Sleep.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Like, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is the Odyssey.
He's got a
It's the
really
Odyssey.
he has a very
Yeah.
distinct style, and
It's
it is
amazing. I love it.
It is funny in a way that usually isn't funny. So I give a lot of credit where credit's due. To
Yeah,
that.
I love
just big fan.
All right, my number 5 is Orson Welles.
Nice.
Citizen Kane. Like I saw that probably for the first time. I saw it about 10 years ago, and just watch it. They're like, let's just watch it. So we watched it. I was impressed and surprised that the camera shots that he was using in that movie, it looked like it was just a black and white but modern day, but it was back in the 50s, right? 40s, like late 40s, early 50s, and he was doing shots that like normal modern day directors and cinematographers were doing, and I was like overwhelmingly impressed with this guy's work.
Well, I was going to say too, he was doing a lot of shots.
Rosebud.
Period.
Oh yeah.
Rosebud, the sled. The sled, right. All right, my number 5 is Meathead himself, Rob Reiner,
Nice.
who is a wonderful film director. He did When Harry Met Sally. He did the Courtroom one with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise.
Do you want the
and
A
truth?
Few Good Men.
You can't
Few
handle
Good
the
Men.
You can't handle the
Few
truth.
Good Men, and he
Yeah, you
did.
can.
He did, and it needs to be brought up now because it's a roving subject around our page and elsewhere. He did The Perfect Movie,
The Princess.
The Princess Bride.
If they remake
which
it,
should
I
never,
will never.
which should never
I don't-
ever be remade.
I don't think.
and we
it's
will
gonna
not
happen.
review it on this show or anything.
I think
else.
there's so much nasty blowback about it that
I
they're
don't
gonna
think they're
have
going
to
to.
not do it.
Even Carrie Ellis is like, there's far few
He
perfect
quoted
movies
his
in this
own, I
world.
love it.
Don't ruin this.
Yeah,
one.
Shortage of perfect movies.
Yeah.
There's a
Brilliant.
and I will say that this is another one of Sean Critchfield's unpopular opinions. I thought North was good. I enjoyed North. I don't understand why people get like why there's all the hate.
It was all right.
It's boring.
Courtney's leaving.
No.
That's it. I can't finish this main event.
That's right. No.
I find it to be boring.
I enjoyed it. I didn't
It was
think
okay.
it deserved all the
It was
hate
all right.
that it got. I mean, that movie got hated.
I didn't think it was
pretty-
terrible. I just thought it was a little
Man,
slow.
that movie was drenched in haterade. Like it's just yeah.
well, it
it's-
was
No, you
ridiculous.
did not just say
I enjoyed
haterade.
Well, he was in the North Pole for 5 months, but it only seemed like 2 days. Come on.
I enjoyed it.
It was
I love
silliness.
some whimsy.
Nothing wrong
you
with that,
yeah.
though.
So yeah.
Okay, my number 4 is Sam Raimi because of 2 reasons:
Spider-Man.
Evil Dead, and then when he went on to Spider-Man. I mean, those are such different movies, and that talk about growth as a director. I mean,
he's
it's
good.
phenomenal.
And Darkman. He's very interesting.
And he
guy,
can he can take whatever budget he has and make art with it, and that to me is so beautiful. That means more to me than anything.
He's a little bit he's Burton-esque a little bit, but not over.
and I love the fact that he
I would
always
agree with that.
uses.
Like it's a little bit over the top, but not
Yeah.
so over the top that it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I like that he always uses Groovy Bruce in his movies too.
Bruce,
Right,
man.
That's right. Yeah.
My number 4 is Tim Burton.
But I will take that one with you as well. My number 4 is Tim Burton.
Tim
as well,
Burton.
too, yeah.
Gotta love Tim Burton. Fell in love with Tim Burton for Batman
Beetlejuice,
'89.
Yeah, Batman
And then I
'89,
was
Big
just
Fish.
sucker even if it's a terrible movie because he's had some
Well, he's had some stinkers.
some
Right.
stinkers like Alice in Wonderland and then the
Oh.
second.
And the Planet of the Apes.
I liked Planet of the Apes.
And the
Yeah.
interviews that he gave about Batman afterwards, I don't read comic books. Well, we know because you
Well,
killed Joker.
you
Well,
got
that's
lucky.
okay because
And
Zack Snyder said I know comic books and he killed everything.
Yeah, he doesn't know comic books.
Fair enough.
So
Well
there we
played.
go with that.
And of course, Tim Burton gets credit also, although he didn't direct it, but he wrote The Nightmare Before Christmas. Did
Yes,
he
he did.
not?
He also directed it.
Did he direct it?
I thought he
Did
directed it.
Yup.
Are you sure
Yup.
about that?
And he drew most of the characters.
I knew he designed it and wrote it, but
Yep,
I
'cause
didn't
that was
think
also
he
a
directed
trivia
it.
question.
Okay, very good.
Kaj and Courtney get to be director twinsies. I wish I had a director twinsie. My number
You
4
can
is
share my number 1.
my number 4 is Jim Henson. Because Jim Henson.
No, I get it, but I don't think of him as a director. I just think of him as a
Violent.
creator. I don't. Can you really direct those puppets? I mean, come on.
You are
Yeah.
categorically wrong right now.
Am I PB?
Yeah.
PB won the game show. You can shut it, buddy.
But in all seriousness,
PB got a big hit.
I would say that like part of what we're talking about is a style and an aesthetic. There are no Muppets without Jim Henson.
I need you to go over here.
So yeah, hi ho.
Hi ho.
Hey,
Go
ho, come
over
with the
here,
frog
please.
here.
So, but that's
over there, you do.
He's just
It's
and it's
Grover.
if you think about it, most other puppet TV shows, movies, things like that, they take their cues from the Muppet Show.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So he defined a genre as a director. So I mean, and it's Jim Henson.
What?
Todd's just gonna say
Oh
hand
no,
up.
just a slight update, ladies and gentlemen, because we have to be correct in this podcast. Tim Burton did not direct Nightmare Before Christmas.
Stop helping him.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
is the
I'm sorry. Could you say that one more time?
I think one was plenty, thank you.
Let's be clear. He did produce Nightmare
He
Before
did?
Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
but Henry Selick directed Nightmare Before Christmas.
And
He
Nightmare,
still made all the characters.
No. What it was, guys, it actually came out last year that it was a director body double.
I thought they just
It was
said
Janet Leigh.
I thought they just said his name 3 times. And it came
Leroy
out.
Jinkies.
All right, so it's me.
No, you already did yours.
You already did yours.
Oh yeah, okay, so
Use
right.
your twinsies.
My number 4 is the Tim Burton before Tim Burton, and that would be Alfred Hitchcock,
There you go.
who I think kind of set the stage for that.
Almost made
for
my
that
list.
for that slightly just off.
He was a less
Visual.
scary Twilight Zone.
Yeah, maybe.
Everything
but-
was a murder mystery. It wasn't. It was a
No,
mystery.
he just
not
had
necessarily a
this
thing.
very unique. Like you couldn't really look at like North by Northwest and go, "Wow, that's so weird." But you do look at it and go, "There is something weird about like the way he set up visuals and the way that."
Can I ask one Alfred Hitchcock question?
Sure.
The birds. Everyone's very familiar with that movie, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
The bird that she took in the cage, is that why they were all attacking at the end? I always thought that.
I
as
don't
a
think
kid.
it was ever revealed.
It's never really
I know,
said.
but I thought that was. They left it hanging, and no
Yeah.
one's answered my
One-
question after 100 years of
His
that freaking movie.
I don't know if it would be. I mean, there's a lot you could say. I mean, Psycho is brilliant
Yeah.
as a movie, but Rear Window is the
Window,
one that just
Vertigo.
blows me
Hitchcock
away.
tended to circumvent the acceptable directorial norms at the time. The one thing that I remember is in Vertigo, he's got the scene where they're in Jimmy Stewart's in the apartment, and it's lit completely by neon light that's outside it, and it's done in green neon. And Kim Novak comes and she's walking in, and the thing is, up until that point, they only usually ever used red neon or white neon as the ambient lighting. He was the first one to use some other color of neon to light and he used that color to light the entire scene. There's no other light. It's just they're bathed in this green neon, and it's like completely unheard
Yeah,
of.
a visionary unlike
completely
others.
unheard of
and
at
he
the
was
time.
he was the guy that hated kids more than Rod Serling,
Yeah.
kind of famously.
Throwbacks to the Twilight Zone episode.
I love that episode. Okay, my number 3 goes with Christopher Columbus. If you've
Didn't
never,
he discover the?
No, he discovered the Harry Potter.
Oh, okay.
He discovered the Potterverse, I think.
Right.
Didn't he
And
sing
Home
Sailing?
Alone.
Oh, that's Christopher Cross.
Sailing from a
Can't
moving
say
car.
No, but I mean, if you watch like the Harry Potter that he did versus the other ones, there's just such a feel good magic that he does
He
that
did the Home
no one
Alone
else
movies,
does
too.
on everything he's done. Home Alone.
You got to explain to me though how he butchered up Percy Jackson. That's what I don't understand.
Bad source material.
I wonder.
No,
If
Yes.
great source material.
no, I wonder if it's because he either he didn't want it to be like Harry Potter, or the producers or the studio was like, do Percy Jackson,
But make
but
it
it
Harry
can't be
Potter.
like Harry Potter. So maybe his hands were tied.
I don't know. But I'd say but there's just there's special magic when he does stuff compared to what other, even with the same material, you see it, and it's just there's something that's just so innocent about what he does.
Or like Sean says, maybe it's a body double.
There you go.
Yeah. Number 3 is Patty Jenkins for the obvious of Wonder Woman, of course, but also Monster. I
Oh,
could
she did
only
that?
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Okay.
won an Oscar for that. I watched it one time and it just destroyed me because it's a tough story to wrap your head around, and so Patty Jenkins.
My number 3, we can do this one and move on because it's been a topic many times. It's been discussed ad nauseum on the show. Is John Hughes?
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Done.
All right, so my number 3 is Irvin Kershner.
Who is?
Is the director of Empire Strikes Back.
I thought that was George Lucas.
The best.
I'm joking, guys. I'm joking.
We don't have enough money for a laugh track.
Sean and
Yeah,
I'll
me.
do it.
Wow, that was condescending.
That was about
That was
the
condescending
that
laugh
was
ever
was
on
a
the
buck
show.
35
here.
laugh
But yeah,
track.
there we go. I got some spare change.
Better than
Exactly.
the irritated slow clap.
Oh, you
Thanks.
stop Pelosiing us. That's good. You did good. But also he did one of my favorite James Bond movies, Never Say Never Again. Offshoot James Bond, but Sean Connery, and did RoboCop 2.
Oh, nice.
You
The
look-
worst
You
of
look
the
so
RoboCops.
pleased with that one
Thanks.
too.
No,
The
it's
Michael
not the
Bay
worst.
of RoboCops.
Oh.
To go along with Sean, John Hughes is my number 3.
Twinsies.
Twins friendship.
The one thing I have to say about him, the movie Breakfast Club for You, not for me, the movie of his that stands out among all others as a brilliantly made movie that uses silence better than any movie I've ever seen is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, yeah.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of the most brilliant films
Unbelievable.
ever made.
I
And
swear I
it
thought
was,
you were going to do 16 Candles.
I think we weren't sure if this is
Oh, no, that's
true or
you.
not, but I seem to remember it. We also invented the credit button, the
Oh.
moment at the end of the credits.
Oh.
Like,
Oh,
that
cool.
Was the first one to
Nice.
do that. So I think.
Right. Nice.
My number 2, I'm not going to go into it because we've done a whole show on him, but Rod Serling.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Twilight Zone, I mean, come on.
Number 2 is Josie Rourke. She is a British theatrical director. And
She's from
producer.
England.
She's from England.
She's with the Pussycats, right?
Yeah, Josie Rourke. She did direct. She recently directed Mary Queen of Scots, the one that had Margot Robbie in it. But I love her because I saw a production of Much Ado About Nothing that she directed that was just flawless in every way.
Nice.
So.
Good play.
My
When done
number
right.
Original
2.
rom-com.
My number 2 is Cameron Crowe. I mean, almost famous. That you know.
That's a
there was-
movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that was considered to be breaking rules as filmmaking and has gone on to become standard. Like he held his shots for way too long and would force the actors into these last little beats. Like there's the moment where. She says, "What kind of beer?" And then there's this take afterwards, and she wipes the tears away and she laughs. And it's one of the most charming pieces of film I've ever seen. And it's and that's his genius. Is
Don't
just
love
to really
everything
capture
he's done, but
humanity.
that movie is something else.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he's one of those guys where if I hear it's coming, I'm at least going to check it out. You know?
Nice.
I won't spend too long on this one, too. My number 2 is director of Death Becomes Her, Frighteners, Forrest Gump, King Kong, and the Back to the Future series, Robert Zemeckis.
That becomes her.
Brilliant. Yeah, we could do a whole show on
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
we
love
could.
his style.
Peter Jackson did the Frighteners. Gosh.
That's anger coming out of there.
But my number 2 is also Robert Zemeckis. He did not direct The Frighteners, but he did direct Back to the Future and everything that Kosh said. Back to the Future 2, at the time, broke ground on special effects like nothing ever had at that time, and still holds up. Some of those shots with the cars flying, landing, I mean, seamlessly put together in special effects, for sure.
So, now...
All right, update.
Uh-oh.
Peter Jackson directed The Frighteners.
Welcome to my world.
Okay, now we're going to do our honorable mentions before we hit number 1. Rule is no explanation, kick them off. Okay, so my honorable mentions, I got a lot, would be Richard Donner, Peter Jackson, Wes Craven, John Woo, Robert Rodriguez, Jerry Bruckheimer, and, of course, Quentin Tarantino.
Kenneth Branagh. And Francis Ford Coppola.
Jim Jarmusch, Terry Gilliam, and Richard Attenborough.
Oh, that's it.
I got Edgar Wright and Martin Scorsese, just for the mere fact of Goodfellas, that long shot, like having them going to.
Whoever
I think that was
directed
the
The
first
Player.
time it was ever you.
No,
or
it's in The Player.
It's in The Player too.
Do you remember that movie that he did where you weren't allowed to justify your answer?
That's the one. Yeah.
Do you realize that you're being super mean right now, Sean?
It's Batman Day.
I just had Peter Jackson.
Okay, so and then let's go on to our number 1s, and my number 1 should be to nobody's surprise after me gushing over him earlier is Kevin Smith. He's a director that I just get. I mean, more than anything else, there's definitely superior directors to him, but I get him. And he speaks to me, and that to me is more important than anything else you could put out on anybody else.
My number one is she's a theatrical director. She's a South African theatrical director. Her name is Yael Farber. She's a playwright as well. I saw a production of The Crucible that she directed at the Old Vic that literally stayed with me for weeks. It was so visceral. It was so raw. And then I've read some of her other plays and seen some of her stuff. It's just what she does defies description.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Mine is similar. Mine is Robert Lepage. Lepage, what most people know him for is he was the director of Ka, and he's also the one at the MGM, and he's also the director. He did like 3 or 4 of Peter Gabriel's tours. But before that, he really showed me what you can do if you're willing to get imaginative and creative as a director. He would work miracles. Like at one point there was a show that he did where they flew in a 45-degree mirror above him, and then they had a guy lay on the stage and he rolled across the stage and it looked like a man floating through space, and it was just exquisite. And so he is always my favorite director because he influenced me as a director and the way that I approach things. Dream big and then figure it out.
Nice.
Make miracles on a budget, and that's
like
him
that.
for me.
Sweet.
All right, I'm going to do one little quick thing before I get into my number one. For some reason on Google, it says that Robert Zemeckis has something to do with the Frighteners. I'm looking at the actual Wikipedia IMDb. He is not in here. I have no idea. They should take that off.
Okay.
That's my rant. Let me get off my
It's okay.
soapbox.
Sometimes you swan dive into the sidewalk.
You know what?
It just
Sometimes
happens.
the internet is wrong.
What?
You mean it's not
I think
wrong?
that was a
believed
quote.
you, Google.
I think sometimes the internet is wrong is a Abraham Lincoln quote, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Mark
Yes.
Twain.
Oh,
Okay, there you go.
hi. I haven't done mine yet. Yeah, don't point at me. All right, so my number one is kind of a special number one in my heart. My favorite director it's actually 3 people. It's Sean Critchfield, which is right across the street. I got Courtney Sheets, which is right next to me over here, and then Ben Lowy, which I did a Young Frankenstein with. To me, these directors that I've worked with are kind of cut from the same cloth, where they let the actor breathe. They let the actor kind of create and do their own thing, and then incorporate it into the show itself, and it just makes magic. And I've had so much fun being directed from these 3 people. I would if they asked me to do a show, I would do it in a heartbeat, because I know I was going to have an amazingly good time and the show was going to be friggin' phenomenal. So that is my number one. Those 3.
Thank you.
That is
means a lot.
very, very sweet. Don't you
Yeah,
think?
it gives
Now
me.
you gotta do your crappy one after
I
that.
love you.
Oh, that is sweet.
No, it's really
kiss
nice.
ass.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gives me a special number 1 in my heart.
Okay.
And a number 2.
Thanks, God.
You want more feeling with it? All right,
Let's try it again, but take the sock out.
Yeah.
I could add to that, but I will
no.
not.
Family friendly.
Yeah.
Right.
My number one is Steven Spielberg, who I think in his large catalog of great films, and some films that at times do leave a little bit to be desired, still the most well-rounded, probably modern, knowledgeable, and just universally understood directors for pretty much everyone, because I think everyone can find something in that catalog.
Yeah.
Whether you're deeply into more abstract, obscure theater or into real mainstream stuff, I mean, he's got something for everyone.
Yeah, it's
And-
incredibly likely that one of your favorite movies is his.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
I don't even know it, yeah.
And I hate to, we got to cut it off. It is time, guys.
Okay.
Aw. Check out the website, www.iheartgeekshow.com. Use the com. We paid extra for it. Go to the Instagram. Go to the Facebook. Go to the Twitter. Do all the things you're supposed to do on all those. That's kind of important.
Go to the YouTube.
Go to the YouTube. Thank you.
Subscribe and
We
like.
paid
We
extra
More
have,
tube.
we have so many things on the side. I'm having
That's right.
trouble keeping them all together.
Right.
We're working on it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do something. And until next time, I'm Dub.
I'm Siege.
I'm Sean.
I'm Kaj.
I'm the winner of the game show.
So the winner of the game show
and-
gets to say it.
Well, first that's PB&Jason, by the way.
Well, if you want to extend his name.
Okay, so what's my motivation for saying this? How do I get this across
Okay,
in such a way
you're
that
full
the
of
audience
crap.
will understand?
You're
How do I do it to where
pretentious.
they'll
Sean,
believe me?
should we give him a
How do
line
I do it?
reading?
Give me a line reading.
Shall we?
Let's do it.
Keep on geeking on.
Cut.
That's
Keep-
a wrap, people.
Once more with feeling.
You've been listening to iHeartGeek. Our Twitter account is @iHeartGeekShow. Hope you enjoyed the show.